Yes. So it is 7:36. We did come out of our executive session at 7:35, took a few minutes to start the video. No action was taken during the executive session, and so we will move forward with the meeting agenda. At this time, we are moving to item number 7 on the agenda, which is our action items. Our first action item is the tonight's consent agenda, consisting of the council minutes from the June meeting, the June 2022 claims, the June 2022 treasurer's report, and the June 2022 payroll. Would any member of the council like to take any of those items separately? Seeing none, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda tonight as presented?
I make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Vesey. Any discussion? Mr. Sander.
Shouldn't our special meeting also be included? Wasn't that the June meeting?
Yes, it was. And it will be included in the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Sander has pointed out that we did have a very, very brief special meeting last month, and those agenda items will be the minutes from that special meeting will be included in the August packet. We had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor of accepting the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. Thank you. And that brings us to Ordinance 529, amendments to the 2022 budget. Ms. Matkin.
Thank you, Mayor. This is our cleanup amendment that we do every year. I do have just a few items to go over. We removed the sidewalk project coming out of REIT. Paul's thinks we can go out for funding, and since concrete is so expensive right now and we can't even get it, he thought just remove it from this year's and we'll circle back next year. Also, we have the actual beginning balances as normal. We are also asking to change the wages and benefits budgets to include that fourth person, well, fifth, but new person, as Mr. Allen is retiring. And I think that's about it, except we did receive our final tranche of the local fiscal recovery funds, and this will show that in there, and also the moving of it to revenue replacement as discussed at prior meetings. Any questions?
So questions for Ms. Matkin on that? So this is an ordinance amendment. Mr. Wurst is going to provide some comment regarding the lack of a public hearing on the budget amendment.
So in the past, we've had public hearings on budget amendments. There's two different statutes under the RCW that you can go under for a budget amendment. And I guess I'd leave it to the council if they feel like we should note it up for a hearing for comment, but I think you can go under RCW 35 Cap A 33.080, which is allows for a budget amendment to cover expenses to meet mandatory expenditures required by laws enacted since the budget was adopted. Otherwise, if you want to treat it as a first touch and review tonight, we can note it up for a public hearing next month and address it under 35A 33090, which is the other emergency statute, which requires a hearing. that's what we've done historically, but I think you've got an option either way. It's just, the city's typically wanted to put out notice and allow comment. I don't know if we've ever got comment on a budget hearing, but the minute you don't note it up is the minute somebody says, how come I didn't get a chance to comment?
So based on that, is there, I would ask if there is any member of the council that wishes to consider this a first touch and then hold it over for the August meeting for a public hearing and vote at that time? Or do you wish to simply consider the ordinance for a vote tonight? Anyone moving forward? Not seeing anyone move to request it as a pushing it to August. So at this time, I would ask, is there a motion on ordinance 529 as presented?
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 529 as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
So ordinance 529 has been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing or hearing no discussion, all in favor of adopting ordinance 529 as presented, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, ordinance 529 is adopted unanimously. Thank you very much. And that brings us to item 7C, which is the Washington State Department of Natural Resources Forest Resilience Division contract and agreement. Who has this one? Because it would be Paul. Kyle is busily trying to shuffle it off to Mr. Worst. We could make Daniel do it because he negotiated it, but I don't think Daniel wants to take that one up. So, okay, so Brian's going to jump on it.
Okay, in your packet is the grant agreement, State of Washington Department of Natural Resources grant agreement. The purpose of this grant agreement is to provide funding to the city on a match basis, $20,000 from DNR. With a match by the city of a minimum of $20,000 to establish a tree inventory for city property, city street, and right-of-way trees and user-friendly map. That would become part of the city's urban forest management plan. I have reviewed it and provided comments to the city in terms of some things we need to identify before wet ink is put on the agreement. But I'm confident that we'll be able to satisfy primarily insurance requirements, confirming that we've budgeted and confirmed the match requirement. I did ask staff to confirm with the city treasurer that we'll just be able to comply with the billing procedures. Pretty common at the state agency, but good to know up front what you're going to be obligated to do. Like I said, on the insurance, we just have to be able to provide with submission of the agreement, certificates of insurance to Department of Natural Resources as well. One of the items just to point out is that typically state agreements have a COVID vaccination requirement for individuals working under them. This agreement has been expressly identified as work not subject to the governor's proclamation regarding COVID requirements. So that's a requirement that won't be imposed on the city on this one. And that's also for any subcontractors that we would have to engage under the contract, which would mean that the mayor would have the option of either confirming vaccination or asking for an attestation of such, not a requirement here. So happy to answer any questions. Would love for you guys to throw a question at Daniel or Kyle, just to put them on the hot seat. But I would recommend you move forward with approval of the agreement subject to confirmation of the underlying insurance requirements.
So I will say that Daniel did a great job of applying for this grant. I think we were the only entity east of the Cascades to receive an urban forestry grant to start our tree program in full force. I really do think that with the $40,000 we're going to spend here, we will have a fantastic inventory. We will have a great user product for our citizens, and it will give us the option, or not the option, but the ability to come up with some suggestions or some recommendations to the council for preserving our canopy. Other than, we have the second largest canopy of a city, other than Spokane. And so, as we know, preservation of that canopy takes effort. It takes outreach to our citizens. It takes some ability to be to fund, to look at the types of trees we want to replace, things like that. We obviously have folks that are not only committed to having a canopy, but committed to having a canopy of very specific types of trees. Folks really love their oaks, things like that. So this is a key part of getting us where we need to do. And you will see in the next action item, we are going to ask for a approval of an actual urban forestry consultant to assist us with that. So I'll stop rambling and look if there are any questions for Daniel, myself, or Mr. Wurst. Not seeing any, so is there a motion on this agreement?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Natural Resources Forest Resilience Division contract and agreement.
I second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Should that be contingent on verification that we can meet all contract requirements?
Is that considered a friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So as amended by Mr. Culler, acceptance of the agreement subject to meeting the terms and conditions of the grant agreement. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the grant agreement is approved unanimously. Thank you very much. And so that brings us to item 7D, which is a project proposal from Community Forestry Consultants. Well, since Paul decided to go on vacation, I'll go through this real quick. Paul did I can say this. Paul did a proposal solicitation for urban forestry consultants from individuals. We received one proposal from Jim Flott of Community Forestry Consultants, who is highly regarded in the area. And at this time, we would bring him on, and the total price on his proposal to provide professional consulting services, which would be the tree inventory and preparation of the urban forestry management plan, is $25,000. So he will do a tree inventory of up to 1,000 trees, and then prepare a urban forestry management plan consistent with the requirements of the standards of an urban forestry management plan for Washington. Any questions? Mr. Sander.
The inventory is for existing trees. Do we have the opportunity to, ask, are there some other opportunities for urban forestry, that we have other properties that may be able to have trees? Is that kind of part of the management plan?
So the goal of them, so this work will form the backbone of our urban forestry management plan. This will give us the ability to know what types of trees we have, what kind of condition we have. Now, mostly these are going to be limited to street trees, trees in the public right-of-way, and trees in our parks and arboretums. So these would be our quote-unquote public trees. Street trees are that kind of weird thing where they are on private property, but because they do extend into the public right-of-way, they are considered as part of this management plan. So by doing this, we can get a sense of exactly what we have in the city, what condition it's in, so what's its age, what's its health, the varieties we have, and then as we go forward, we can look at other opportunities not only for replacement and management, but also enhancement, where we can come up with other areas to enhance canopy, or what sort of initiatives we can take for landowners for enhancing canopies, things like that. So, but until we know what we have, where it is, and what its overall health, condition, age, because we have a few, I mean, I know that you folks have been up and down Dalton in the center strip there. We've got a few that have potentially reached the end of their healthy life, and so how do we replace those? How do we manage them? How do we work forward for there? But this program will give us that ability, and it will provide a really good GIS base for us to be able to see, are there areas where we need to enhance a canopy? Do we have voids in our area that we can use to make sure that we are being equitable in our tree distribution around the city, things like that? What are our opportunities for our commercial areas, stuff like that? But getting this going is the primary thing like that, and it'll all feed out of there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So I'd look to the council for a motion to accept the proposal from Community Forestry Consultants for the tree inventory assessment and the urban forestry management plan in the amount of $25,000.
I make a motion that we accept the project proposal for Community Forestry Consultants to the amount of $25,000.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the project proposal is accepted unanimously. Thank you very much. So that brings us to our last item tonight, which is item 7E, an administrative offer and valuation of property. Mr. Wurst.
Thank you. Okay, as you know, there's a little project that we've been working on in the city of Millwood on Argonne Road. Part of that project requires a license to be obtained from UP Railroad. We've gone through the administrative process of determining the value of what that license would be, which is $3,600, 3,600. And I guess at this point, what we'd like to ask the council is a approval of the valuation of the property for the UPR license in the amount of $3,600.
Any questions for Mr. Wurst? For the record, as Mr. Wurst stated, the city is not acquiring real property from the railroad. The city is simply working with their appraiser to set a value for that property for its use with Union Pacific for the purposes of establishing a license agreement. Any other questions? Is there a motion from the council to accept the valuation as presented?
I make a motion to accept the evaluation of the property for the North Argonne Road widening project as presented at a total of $3,600.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? None opposed. The valuation offer is accepted unanimously. So what will happen, just for record, is I will sign this, I will approve this valuation offer tomorrow morning, and it will be transmitted to Union Pacific. At that point, they will begin the process of developing the license agreement based on having a valuation in hand. And so at some point in the future, we will be bringing back a license agreement to the council. With no further action items on our agenda, that moves to item number 8, our reports. There are no action on these reports, so that brings us to 8A, a Public Works report. Mr. Shui.
Yep. So our routine water samples this month came back good.
We've been working on the New Park well. That's our largest well for the hot summer months. We finally got all the parts in for that, and they got it all plumbed, and we're actually running off that well right now as we speak. Probably tomorrow we'll be starting on the subgrade for our generator pad for the well, so it'll be able to run when we have these random power outages. You guys have been pretty much up to date on the Argonne project. What Ms. Mackin touched on about the sidewalk projects and stuff, we're going to go ahead and we've been talking with Welch Comer and filling out a TIB application to find different funding for that, to try to get some of the worst parts, especially down there in Area 1, you know, Liberty, Dalton, all those north-south side streets, get all those real bad trip hazards fixed. Hopefully we'll be able to get at least as initial phase of that going in 23. AAA's been cleaning the streets, and the county is going to be doing all the striping and stuff for us. We hopefully got a pretty good layout now on the alley behind Bottles to maximize our parking capacity and making a one-way flow through the alley from north to south. Hopefully everybody gets that and uses it the way it's supposed to be used. We finally found some attendants for the pool, and they seem to be working out good, and we had to adjust the hours, so they'll be closed. It'll be closed every Wednesday, but other than that, I think the hours are fairly normal, consistent with other years. And you guys know about the tree board stuff. That's about all. Okay.
Any questions for Kyle?
Do we have the generator, or are we still waiting on that?
Yes, we have it. Yep.
It's in the maintenance bay. It's awesome. You can go out and take a look at it. Oh, it's beautiful.
It's big.
Yeah, we'll have to bring in we actually have to bring in a specialty crane to move that thing around. So there will be time once the pad is poured that we're going to have to pull that out of there and then hoist it with the crane and set it down. So looking forward to that. Any other questions? Thank you, Kyle. So that would bring us to our treasurer report this evening. Ms. Mackin.
I'd love to tell you that the audit is over, but it's not. So it's really close. So we should have all of the back and forth done by the 18th. That's the goal. And then the auditor's office will extend an invite to all of you for the end meeting. So keep your ears open. And also yesterday I began work on the re-edits of the personnel and policy and procedure manual. So hey. Yeah, I really am. But that's about it.
Any questions for Ms. Mackin on any of our financial matters, anything like that? What was our second tranche?
251,000.
So one of the things that I and Ms. Mackin and Mr. Worst have talked about is coming to the council for a resolution to commit those funds as revenue replacement, because we have pretty much exhausted our normal tranches for what we can do for outreach for there, and so we do have the ability to take the rest of that money for revenue replacement. So we will probably be coming to you folks next month with a resolution asking that we note that we are dedicating that fund to those funds to revenue replacement. So if no other questions, we've got clerk, planning, and code enforcement. Is our clerk out there in the ether?
I am here, but I've given my report to Lisa so she can do it.
All right, so if there's anything you wish to chime in at the end, you may. Thank you.
All right, so Christina wanted me to let you know that she's continuing to work on the site design for the improvements to North 40 Outfitters. Applicants need to work out some issues with Spokane Valley regarding access to Vista. And the Planning Commission is continuing to gather public input for the park master plan. They will be at the July 20th Farmers Market with their second booth of the season. The first one was very successful. They've been having a really good time over there. Historic Preservation will also have a booth at the July 20th Farmers Market as well. The scanning project to convert the paper address files to electronic files has begun again. And following last month's meeting, a request for proposals was issued for the new logo branding services. Deadline for submission of those proposals is July 22nd. As of Monday evening, we have received 27 applicants for the Public Works permanent position posting. First review of those applications will be on July 18th. Code enforcement has, as usual, started to increase, always does in the summer months. And the movie in the park is going to be Friday, July 22nd at 8:30, and it is the Bad Guys, yes. Posters downstairs, and so that should be really fun. It was really popular last year, so we're hoping to get even more people this year. And that's all she has.
Any questions for Lisa or any questions for Christina, because she's out there? Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you, Christina. So that brings us to 8D, our legal report. Any legal items?
I don't have anything further to add than what's been on the agenda or what's been mentioned tonight. Happy to answer any questions if the council has any. So.
Questions for Mr. Worst? No questions for Mr. Worst. Mayor's report is going to be quick this evening. We are plowing ahead with the Argonne project, and hopefully we will meet all of our deadlines for right-of-way acquisition. And by your actions tonight, as we have one last outstanding bit of right-of-way work to do, but we can also at that point then begin working with SRTC for the additional funding. As a note to the council, I will be out of town all of next week. So who is the mayor pro tem? Do we remember? Do we know?
I can tell you in a minute.
Well, they'll figure out who the mayor pro tem is, and somebody will remind you who the mayor pro tem is, because I will be driving to Champaign, Illinois, and I don't know, maybe I won't come back, so somebody else might have that job. Anyway, but that does mean that if there is somebody who wishes to do the opening statement for the movie in the park on Friday, from the council, I would reach out to Christina, because I will not be able to be out there having fun in the park. So if somebody's around wants to do that, talk to Christina. Otherwise, that is pretty much the mayor's report. Any questions for me on anything? So that brings us to, thank you very much, that brings us to item number 10 on our agenda. We have no item number 9, which is your council information. There is the sheriff's report in the packet. We had not received a scraps report yet at this time, but we will forward it on to you as soon as we get it. And that brings us to, yes.
It is, second half of 2022 is Sean Culler. First half of 2022 is Andy Van Hees, so we're in the second half. Right? So it is Sean.
So, Mr. Culler, if you want to show up in the park or delegate that, that's up to you.
I will not be in town, so if anybody else wants to.
Just let Christina know.
So you're talking like a mayor pro tem?
Sure.
I feel like that defers to the first half of the year.
You got pro tem.
Yeah, I do. I got nothing to say, except Kelly, that'd be a great job for you.
It's all you, Andy.
I'll do it.
The beard will move it.
Perfect.
I'll wear my Santa outfit.
I gotta see that. Hey, somebody gotta take some pictures of that. You show up in your bulky Santa suit in July. That's awesome. So that brings us to item number 11, public remarks, which is the opportunity for the citizens to address the council on any subject except for action items on this meeting agenda. We accept comments both by mail or email, written comments, or delivered in person, or we have the opportunity for people to come before us and speak in person. And we do not have anybody in the audience tonight, but I will make the call. So first call for public remarks. Second call for public remarks. Third and final call for public remarks. Seeing nobody step forward to the podium, that concludes item number 11, public remarks. And council remarks. We'll just go around the horn. Ms. Beesey.
Thank you. Well, I want to congratulate everyone for getting the 2 pool people because that was something I thought about all month. And then also I did want to close the loop to something I asked about during the chief's report. I don't know what's appropriate to put in the water bill, but is there an opportunity to write like something little up about how we're number 1 and that it's secondary to our responsiveness as a public?
So we have a couple options with that. We just had the Millwood newsletter go out, but there's not really a lot of, for the depth that I think you're looking for, we can either hold it to the next newsletter or we could do a special insert for the next bill.
We could even provide a link on the bill to their website.
Yeah, and just so I can quantify the depth, I did not want us to necessarily dive as deep as all that, but just like, hey, we're number 1.
Sure, yeah,
Look out for your neighbor.
yeah. Yeah, we can do that, no problem.
Also put it on our website.
Yep.
Absolutely. Any other comments? Ms. Beasy? Thank you. Mr. Culler?
No comments.
Mr. Van Hees?
I got nothing.
Mr. Sander?
Have we, after the June water bill, the usage was up a little bit.
A little bit.
Anybody complain about that yet?
Well, the bills just went out today, so
Well, that's the July.
it's for June usage,
I
yeah,
was thinking about
so
the May bill.
we'll see.
At least mine did, somehow water more, I don't know why, it's so damn
It rained so much.
I don't know what happened.
That's what's called,
We'll see.
that's what's called leaving the sprinklers on for no good reason.
You should know better.
I don't know what. I adjusted it 2 weeks ago because it was coming out at night, and I realized it was an AM instead of a PM instead of an AM, so I fixed that. Of course, then we had the power outages, of course, 3 of them, you know, and now it's coming on at night again instead of early morning, or early morning instead of late morning rather than late night.
Dan, you want us to come check for a leak or something?
Could be the toilet. It's all in that timer.
Mr. Stravens?
No comments.
So that concludes our council remarks. Do we have any announcement other than the movie in the park for, what time was that going to kick off? 8:30 Friday, July 22nd. And that brings us to item number 14, set our next meeting. Our next regular meeting will be August the 9th, Tuesday at 7 p.m. And so at this time, with no further business, I would look for a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.